speaker will be introduced by Henry Heiser. He's chairman of Unistar LLC, past president of our club, truly one of the best we've ever had, Rotarian of the Year recipient, Lifetime Service Award recipient, a 1912 Society Charter member, and a Paul Harris Fellow. Please welcome Henry.
Thank you, Julie. In 1979, three visionary citizens of Laurel visited with my father and myself to discuss an opportunity for a new regional cancer center. And that would combine existing talent of oncologists, radiation, chemotherapy, pathology. But it was also included important now, and that's research. Perhaps Mary Helen Bick, Langdon Gray Sr., Wilson Wyatt, who were the three top officers of the then existing cancer center, knew that we were looking for an opportunity to acknowledge and honor Henry Hope-Machine Company's 100th anniversary that was approaching the following year. Well, because Wilson and my dad were friends and also Rotarians, Wilson Grant knew that this was good and timely discussion. Well, it worked. And in 1981, the new James Brown Cancer Center was built and dedicated with the Henry Hope Cancer Research Institute on the top floor. This is right next to the University Hospital. Certainly much has evolved in the past 40 years in technology and cancer treatment. And I've really enjoyed seeing the depth and how to develop these many specialties of oncology. Today, I'm particularly pleased to introduce in part of this program my deep respect for Jason Chesney. I've asked his staff for his resume, and not right on paper. So, to be brief, this is difficult. Jason is a summa cum laude graduate of the University of Minnesota, where he received his PhD and MD, and then he went and did his residency at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. He's going to speak about the major medical breakthrough for which the National Institute of Health awarded in September the James Brown Cancer Center $11.5 million to create the first ever Center for Cancer Immunology and Immunotherapy. You're so good at this, Jason. Which was also generously supported by COSAR Charities to extend research to children. Today, Brown Cancer Center is a global leader in clinical trial testing new immunotherapies that activates your body's immune system to fight cancer. One last comment. Besides being a skilled, inspired, trusted clinician, Jason is also a respected leader of a large, complicated institution. And when the opportunity arises, Frankfurt lobby, he is a very major voice, especially when it comes to raising the cigarette tax, which is a proven issue to kids from age 12 to 19. Please join me in recognizing and welcoming my great hero and community treasure, Dr. Jason Chesney. Well, that was wonderful. It's actually the nicest introduction I've ever had. And I've given a lot of talks over here, so I really, it's true. It was. And thank you, Julie, and all the Rotarians for inviting me today to speak. I talked to you about what we thought you would come here about. And one of the issues that I felt was important to talk about today was the fact
indeed winning awards. Hopefully be able to
Hold on.
I can do it without a slide.
I'll get it back up.
So,
Keep talking.
so it was 1971. President declared war on cancer. And that was, I was not very old at that time, but it's something here may recall. That was the result of about 10 years worth of lobbying. From this to the Vietnam War, clear that cancer is being, which has been a killer for decades, and rising in the country as a result of smoking, was being recognized as a major killer. And we saw cancer in the 1960s. There was nothing being done. And, as a result of that, lobbyists, mostly with the American Association of Cancer Research, they're lobbying to have new funding appropriations for the federal government for the National Cancer Institute, which ultimately became $6 billion a year. And I can do this whole talk with us. And so $6 billion a year this year. That's what we're spending on cancer. And I'd like to talk about this usually at the end of my talk, but I thought it would be common to do it. So all of the wars that we've had since the American Revolutionary War, 1975, have translated into 1.3 million military casualties. Men and women dying in battle, going on roads, etc. 1.3. Well, since the Civil War ended in 1865, which is 155 years ago, 600,000, so there's 1.3 million deaths, 600,000. Most of them during World War I and World War II, 50,000 during it was 23, but it was 600,000 who passed as a result of war since the end of the Civil War. Civil War is by far the most brutal for Americans. And so we now spend over $600 billion a year on our national defense to make sure that doesn't happen. And I just mentioned that we spend $6 billion a year on cancer research. 600,000 died since the Civil War. 600,000 died of cancer last year. And I can't do the math very well, but multiply 155 times 600. And so the question is, should we be thinking about taking 1% of the national budget, national defense budget, and moving it into cancer research? Because we are winning the war against cancer, but we can win a lot quicker and save a lot of lives a lot quicker. And so I bring this up because I think it's very important for everyone when we hear about combat pilot dying, it's horrible. What we don't hear about is the 2-year-old dying of leukemia or the 32-year-old dying of breast cancer. And I think it's a moment in time when you can advocate, all of you can advocate for us. You have friends who are politicians, your buddies with Mitch McConnell, great. Even better. But this is a time where we have an opportunity to really double cancer research budget. And when we do that, that's taking 1% of the national defense budget, 1%. I think we can help, and it will mean that less people die. And so I'm just going to do my talk without the slide deck. Another fact that some of you probably don't know is that Kentucky is ground zero. Wrong. All right. Thank you. Kentucky's ground zero. So here's a map. It's a heat map. It's called heat map. So anything that's red is hot. So what we're measuring here is the cancer death rate per 100,000. And all of the red counties that you see there have the highest rate. And in fact, during this time period, the counties in Kentucky had the highest death rate. And why do you suppose that is? Well, 25% of the population smokes cigarettes. That's a major driver of cancer deaths, because lung cancer is the number one cause of death. So that's a big deal. But the second one that's under recognized is the fact that we have 4 healthcare access across most of the state. Louisville is blessed with 3 major healthcare systems now. We have fantastic healthcare for a city our size, honest. But if you get to Somerset, you get to Pikeville, you get to Ashland, those folks really have to drive pretty far to get healthcare. And if you wait for cancer to progress, that's going to translate into poor health. So Kentucky's ground zero. Part of the reason I moved here, and I originally did AIDS research. And that was a great place to do AIDS research, but a lot of patients with HIV in that. But I turned my focus to cancer because I believe at the time that it was the number one challenge in Western medicine. This was 25 years ago. And I decided that Kentucky would be a great place to study cancer and try to cure cancer. So here's a statistic that push forward is the same. I'm just going to say next slide. So,
Yeah.
so another statistic you might remember is that so cancer, the prevalence of cancer. So when we talk about prevalence, that's the percentage of the population that has a disease, right? So the percentage of the population that has a disease has gone dramatically. In particular, since the 1970s. And today, the epidemiologists are predicting, and all the graphs demonstrate this, and all the data every year demonstrates that the cancer population in the United States will go up by 50% in the next 20 years. I suspect most of you have kids, and then I bet a lot of you have grandkids. Some of you have great-grandkids. And so, in 20 years, we predict that there will be a 50% increase in the number of people walking around with cancer. Now, that sounds horrible, right? We've all heard about the baby boomer bubble, right? So as people age, that's the number one risk factor for cancer is aging. It's greater risk factor than smoking cigarettes, drinking, and everything else. We think about that. Well, that's driving this. That's driving this. People are getting out in the sun with melanoma, et cetera. It's not that. It's that we're curing more patients, or we're turning cancer into a chronic disease. So more people, whereas in the past, patients would come in with a diagnosis of cancer, we would treat them, and they pass away, and the more would come in, we would treat them and pass away, and there wasn't a net increase in cancer population. Today, we're treating them with novel, mostly immunotherapies, which are drugs that activate your immune system against cancer, and they're staying alive. A lot of them have to stay on the immunotherapy. And so before I got here this morning, I was out at our beautiful, brand new Northeast facility out on Old Henry Road. And I saw 37 patients. They were all getting infusions. They were all getting immunotherapy. They were on chronic infusions. We see them and check on them for certain toxicities. It's not chemo-related toxicity, but they were living their lives. I saw those patient I saw this morning was 92. The youngest I saw was 14. And so, people, and our goal is to make it so that you don't have to come to a cancer center to get their infusion. We want to turn it into an injection and hopefully someday a pill, but it's translating into individuals being able to live normal lives. And I want to just comment, go back one slide. Yeah, put it on slide. Maybe you can't. So there's I'd say half the audience is 2/3 are men and 1/3 are women, right? And so 1 in 2 men in this room today, 1 in 2 men in this room will get cancer. Did you all know that? And we think of, why I have patients come to me and they say, why did this happen? I run 6 miles a day. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've done everything right. Why does this happen to me? And I said, it's because you're part of the Homo sapiens species, and that's why. 1 in 2 get cancer. Sure, you can increase your risk of getting cancer by smoking, by spending a lot of time in the sun, et cetera, et cetera. But is that 1 in 2 men get cancer, 1 in 3 women. That's probably a little bit of the difference in 80% men do that, women do, let's just say, but more nice and more. But even worse than that, 1 in 3 men die. 1 in 4 men die. So it is a problem that has not gone away. I'm not saying it's gone away. It's a problem, but it's a problem that I believe today is quite solvable. And the next slide that you saw briefly is the fact, this is the first slide about why we're winning this war. So since the 90s, we have seen 30% reduction. So what that means is that in a population of 100,000 people, we've seen a 30% reduction in the percentage of patients dying. Which being heralded as a great success. Why did it happen? Because we understand cancer better, we have better drugs. We treat cancer more aggressively early on. I would say screening has been essential for marked reduction in this cancer pathway. The earlier you catch cancer, the more likely you are to cure it with surgery alone or immunotherapy. You don't need chemotherapy. Once it's spread, years ago, vast majority of cancer types, completely incurable. Patient day about 5 years ago. No longer cured today, and it's improving with each clinical trial. And this is when we talk about the cancer death rate. Well, it's not doing this. I thought it was being driven by commercials from the 1970s. Remember Marlboro Man, right? My hero, right? He's a cowboy. Get out the back of Marlboro and have a cigarette and get on the horse and ride off into the distance. Well, the federal government decided it was not a good idea to influence little kids that way, like teenagers that way. Now, I was growing up in that period and I saw the transition. I remember being on airplanes and everybody smoked on the airplane, right? I remember, some of you probably remember going to the doctor's office, watching the doctor's office. When I was in training in New York, everybody smoked in restaurants still. I'm sure that was the case here. That would have been in the 90s, 2000s. And all that stopped. And so I just assumed it would stop. We go to the next slide. I'm not touching anything. You can't go to the next slide. Oh, okay. Yep. All right. Great progress slide. So I thought it was all lung cancer because fewer people were smoking. It's not all lung cancer. These are the 4 most common types of cancer, and they all have been going down over the last 30 years or so. And you can see lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, right? These make up about 80% of the deaths in the country. So those 4 alone, and everything else is melanoma that you hear about today. That's maybe 5%. So cancer is going down. Main message: we are winning the war against it. Next slide. We're not. All right. So how are we doing this? I'm sure this is my fault. I probably put it as a big. Oh, it's not. Okay. So what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? It's not. This is not a national effort. We're part of the national effort. What are we doing at Brown Cancer Center, University of Louisville, to try to fix this? And number one, we have a goal. We set a goal for ourselves that in the next 5 years, we are going to reduce the death rate by 30%. Not in the next 30 years. That's what it took 30 years to go down by 30%. We want to do it in 5 years. We think we're going to be able to do it. And I know that sounds like hype. It sounds like an unattainable goal, but I believe it's completely. And I'm seeing it happening already. And my goal is by 2025 to be able to get in front of the Rotarians in this room and say, look, here's my old law. And guess what? I was right. It went down by 30%. And that, I believe that's going to happen. But it's going to happen right here in Kentucky. But the work we do right here in Kentucky is going to influence the national death rate as well. And we're going to see that all around, focusing on improving cancer screening and improving the development of novel immunotherapies, which is what's driving the reductions. Now, we don't see these reductions of 6 and 5 years to collect data. I will say that from 16 to 17, which is the last year-to-year changeover they got, they saw a 2% drop, it's the biggest drop in cancer deaths in the country ever since they started collecting the data in the 70s. So that was a 2% drop in 1 year. Okay, how are you going to get up to 30% in 5 years? Well, we've had since then, in the last 5 years, that was 2016, 2015, we've seen a dramatic improvement in outcomes in patients who have lung cancer, patients who have breast cancer, patients who have a variety of other solid. We're also really going to focus on the development of these immunotherapies. I can tell you a little bit about that. Hoping everybody's going to be able to stay awake. It's 2 slides about the immunotherapy. But the first slide I want to show you is, and I'm going to go to the next slide. This is just a 1 slide. Cancer screening sounds a little bit boring. Everybody here knows you're supposed to get colonoscopy every 10 years and follow-up get it every 3 years. Everybody, women in here have gotten mammograms, right? But what you probably don't know is that roughly a third of the population doesn't go for appropriate screening. That's a huge opportunity to reduce the cancer. And so what we've done is we've created this field of health network, right? So we have all these hospitals and outpatient facilities. Now we're coordinating a cancer screening effort with the manager, staff, and really getting into the primary care clinic and saying, hey, we want to make it as easy as possible to educate your patients about the importance of getting these screens. And nobody wants to go get a colonoscopy, right? But if you do it once every 10 years, you markedly reduce your risk of getting colon cancer, dying because it's chronic. So that's number one. Number two, lung cancer drives death. It drives death. 1 in 6 people who get lung cancer have never smoked a cigarette. 1 in 6 people. And so I see probably each week 40 to 50 lung cancer patients. And that means that 8 or 10 of them never smoke a cigarette. So we believe the low dose chest CT screen, that's just a very low dose of radiation, very safe, doesn't cause any problem. But we can screen for little nodules that are early signs of lung cancer. Makes sense. So we have a lung board. The percentage of patients, go back to one slide.
Yep.
The percentage of patients, you see the red up there, the percentage of patients getting low dose chest CT who are heavy smokers, high risk, 2%. Right, so and you go to yourself, well, they smoke, so maybe they're not really into healthcare much. But if we can get them to come in and get those chest CTs, we can really drop that death rate very quickly. And that's extremely important. That's a 5-year plan. We can do that now, right? Because I can catch one early, I can cure them. So that's key. And the last is cancer detection. And we have a fundraising event for this. We have a machine now that Keith Williams and Don Berg and Cranberg got together and helped pay for, and we're using it to detect cancer DNA in blood of high-risk individuals. And then we're working with Johns Hopkins, Berg Volstein, big scientists there, to detect chain of DNA that circulates in the blood. So when a tumor grows in you, the DNA actually is released into circulation. It's different from normal people. We can see that. We can detect that in individuals who are at high risk. We'll be able to walk in to a doctor's office, right, and get a simple blood test when you're getting a blood pressure check, and it'll tell us if there's any kind of cancer in the body. And again, we can catch cancer early, we can cure cancer, right? So that's a very important part of what we're trying to do. Next slide. So here, okay, I have 2 slides. This is hopefully I'll keep everybody here. So what you're looking at here is on the top is a T cell. Those are immune cells that like to eat cancer cells, kill them. And they also like to eat coronavirus infected epithelial cells. It's the same part of the immune system that kills virally infected cells, kills cancer cells. And then the yellow cell down below is the cancer cell. And there's a very specific interaction between them because it has to be targeted. You can't just have these T cells running around killing off cells in your body, right? Because you'll die. That's called autoimmunity. That's what happens in multiple sclerosis. It happens in rheumatoid arthritis, right? T cells eat the cartilage and the cells in the joints, and a variety of other autoimmunities. So there's got to be a way to make sure that T cells don't go after the wrong thing, your own cells. Recognition. There's an approach to that recognizes cancer cells specifically because they look different. They have a bunch of mutations. They look cell binds to the tumor cell and it eats, it drops bombs literally, and it punches holes in the cancer cell and it gets digested, essentially. We've known about this since we knew what T cells were in the 1960s. What we didn't know, what we were trying, and the whole idea in the last 40 years was, okay, all we need to do is make these T cells get really mad at the tumor cells, and then we'll cure cancer. So we're going to use all sorts of approaches to turn them on, scan them. I was part of that effort when I was in training, and it didn't work. And everybody was frustrated and pessimistic about the approach that these immune systems did their cancer activated, get the immune system activated against your cancer. And it was failing. Now, the right slide, that's not a cartoon. The right image, the blue image there, that's an actual patient's tumor cell. It's called a scanning electron micrograph. And that's a T cell right next to it. So this isn't just in my imagination. You have to use a little bit of imagination to be a scientist, but this is real. We can see all this happen in the culture. I have great videos that I was afraid to bring technical stuff, Now here's what happened. This is a no joke. This is a revolution in oncology. It is why we're seeing these reductions in the death rate. What happened was we discovered that T cells that kill cancer cells have brakes that turn them on, which in retrospect makes complete sense that they do, because you have to have a way that you turn on a T cell to go crazy against a coronavirus infected cell. You got to have a way to have that T cell turn itself off, right? It'd be like, you're getting into your car and driving a little ways and then, not being able to stop it, right? It would just go crazy, crazy, crazy. You'd end up like you need a big lymph node, a Fruit of the Loom guys, one of those purple guys. I watched too much TV when I was a kid. And so we discovered that there were breaks. If you go to the next slide, I'll just show you where these breaks are. Maybe I'm moving on a wire back here. But you don't really need, so you really need to see this. Really, you don't. But there are breaks that turn them off. Yeah, trust me that there are. And it turns out the breaks are on the surface. And you can make antibodies, which are these big globular proteins that block the breaks, right? And it's very much like I took, Henry's got a really cool cover, so he can do this. It's as thick as us. So Henry's got this, it's cool. It's really cool. Well, we won't go out. But if I took Henry's car and I put a 2x in front of this break, right? And then I put Henry in his car and I told him to drive downtown around the cancer center, and he went to go stop. He wouldn't be able to, right? Well, these antibodies that I'm talking about literally are the 2x4 for blocking the break on T cell. T cell goes crazy and it kills whatever doesn't look right. It's not, most of the time it's going after the cancer cell, but sometimes, we hope most of the time as we move forward, sometimes it goes after normal cells. And so that all started with a disease called melanoma. Everyone's heard of melanoma, right? Melanoma is a very common, it's the fifth most common cancer. It does not kill that many people, about 10,000 a year. But because of the ultraviolet radiation that you get when you go to pull up Big Springs or a lakeside or out on the Ohio River, that ultraviolet radiation causes damage to the DNA, translates into mutations that create foreign-looking proteins, just like the coronavirus has. And melanoma has the highest rate, the absolute highest rate of mutations of all the cancers. So if you're thinking about trying to activate the immune system that's cancer, you start with melanoma. And that's what we did. And we did this here in Louisville. And in 2012, we used antibodies in a phase 2 clinical trial, started with a dose escalation trial in first in human, then phase 2. And we blocked the 2 known breaks at the time on the T cells. We blocked them, and we saw the most dramatic clinical results that we've ever seen, and frankly, that I've ever seen to this day. We took a disease where 5% of patients died in 1 to 2 years, and translated into a disease where only about 20% of patients died in about 1 to 2 years. So it was just transformation. I mean, it was we went from being a hospice clinic melanoma, right, where we gave some palliative therapies, to being almost like a dialysis. right? With patients with renal failure. Just, I don't stand this slide, it's a good slide, stop that. And so this graph here is that trial. And so all those little blue columns going down, you see those blue lines going down, those are individual patients' tumor measurements. So we measure the tumor with a CAT scan, and we use the maximum diameter. And what we're doing here is if tumors get bigger, they go up, and if they get smaller, they go down, right? The volume goes down. And each one of those blue lines is an individual patient. And you can see that only a handful, wasn't even a handful, it was 3 or 4 patients, I can't see that too well from here, had their tumors get bigger, whereas the vast majority, the tumors got smaller. The light blue on the right is just blocking one break. The one on the left is we're blocking both breaks. And we did that right here. It was us and Sloan Kettering. We published that in what I would say is the most prestigious journal, New England Journal of Medicine, back in 2015, and it got FDA approved as the most effective immunotherapy ever, and it is still the most effective immunotherapy ever. And it was done around cancer center. So thank you, Henry, and your father, and all those who helped create that. So now, all of those people whose lines went down are still alive today. You go to the next slide. So here's an example of a patient. So, and everybody's not eating their lunch, I see. Okay. So I don't know, it looks like most people are looking at that over here, but you can see that little asterisk in the middle of the gray mass there. There's a little asterisk there. That's a big chest wall mass. And you're looking at a CAT scan with a coronal view. And this patient was treated with 4 cycles of these 2 antibodies. And you can see on the right is what happened afterwards. And it looks like it just got cut out by a surgeon, correct? Right? It looks like somebody just took a knife and cut it out. But it wasn't. It was their immune system getting activated against the tumor. It's a very dramatic example of a large tumor. If you go to the next slide, this was a superficial tumor, so you can actually see it here. Oh. And it doesn't really demonstrate. That's just like the tip of the iceberg, right? You're just seeing the external part of it. But all that was left was that hole. Right? There's no surgeon involved. There's no snake oil involved. These were targeted immunotherapies that block the brakes on T-cells and allow the tumors to be seen by the immune system and eradicated. This was 2012. Right? This was the very beginning of this trial. Go to the next slide. So that you saw it very briefly. We went from 2014 we did it in melanoma, right? And then what do you think so there's nothing unique about melanoma, I think, patient. The next cancer down from melanoma in terms of number of mutations dictated by how much carcinogens are exposed to the cancer. So what type of cancer do you think that is? Lung. Yeah. So what do you think we did? We went to lung next, and sure enough, it worked just like it lung, and it's now FDA approved for lung. It took 5 years, but it's FDA approved for lung. We got FDA approved in January. The class of drugs are called immune checkpoint inhibitors. The slide that you saw briefly it shows the number of FDA approvals for that class over time over the last 5 years. And that class of drugs is now FDA approved. When we started with melanoma here in Louisville, now FDA approved for 20 different cancer types. 20 different cancer types. So I can go up and down the whole list, but head and neck cancers, it's approved for. Okay, lung cancer, it's approved for. Breast cancer, it's approved for. Liver cancer, kidney cancer, bladder cancer. It's incredible. That whole class of drugs is now being shown to work with the majority of cancers. And it's not working, in some cases, it's not working as well as it did with melanoma, depending on the cancer type. But it's creating reductions in the deaths by certain percentages. In lung, I would estimate it's about 40 to 50%. That's what we're seeing in lung. We won't know that. We're going to find this out over the course. But I'm seeing it because I used to have one patient die of lung cancer a week, about 100%. I've had one in the last 2 months. Before that, I had 2 in January. So that's a big difference, big drop. And it's all because we're using these therapies. Kind of jumped ahead. We jumped ahead, but and so I'm going to stop that. Those are target areas. That's going on after I need protein. I'm going to jump into, we're almost done. We're now using, to take it to the next level, we're now using the patient's own cells from the body. and activating them outside the body, their immune cells. So what we do is we take a tumor out, we isolate the immune cells from the tumor, and this is the data from the trial, actually. We take it out, and we expand those cells outside the body a billion-fold. And then we put the patient in our bone marrow transplant at the University Hospital, our unit, and we get rid of their own immune system temporarily and replace it with nothing but tumor-associated immune cells. And we're doing this in patients who progress through everything else, including these immunotherapies. Patients who are told to go home and get their virus. And their choices are, you're faced with cancer that's not curable. Your choice is either, hospice or clinical trials. But what's happened with this is, first of all, in the subset of melanoma patients who progress after immune checkpoint inhibitors, after therapy, we're having a 40% success rate right off the bat. In fact, 80% patients, and I think it's shown in this slide here. This is from the trial itself. 1%, yeah. 80% had their tumor shrink. These are patients who have no options. So I have patients coming from all over the central United States. Ours from Colorado, Minnesota, Pensacola, coming here to get this cell-based therapy because they're there and they're saying there's nothing we can do for you. But this is something that they've shown is already starting to work. This was a talk I gave at the American Association for Cancer Research, the same association that started the war on cancer, by the way. They invited us to do a plenary talk there because the data was so stunning. Because remember, these are called waterfall plots. Those are all individual patients. These are patients who had no options. And look at the data. The majority of the patients had their tumor shrink. And so now we're taking this thing. You can try to go to the next slide. We're taking this next, or you can go to the last. We're going along. We're taking the same technology. Really, so here's a great example. Okay, so this lady comes to me. I love telling this story. And she's been in Global Magazine. Her name's Valerie Stamp. She was in the most recent installation from the University. And so she's made it public and allowed me to show her images. And so she comes to me, she calls me, and she lives in Nashville and says to me, I've been to Vanderbilt and they told me there's nothing they can do. So then I went to MD Anderson because that's the next closest and it's the top cancer in the world. And they told me I was too old. And I heard about this program, the cell-based therapy that MD Anderson was doing at the same time as we were doing. But they said I'm too old to get it. And I told she's 73. But she was otherwise healthy. So I said, global, let me talk to you. We did some tests on her, like make sure her heart's okay and lungs are okay. We gave her as part of our clinical trial. And that big blob that the arrow's pointing at, that was a tumor in the middle of her chest. It was compressing on her descending aorta, causing problems at the time, making her short of breath. The white thing above her is her heart. And the two black things on either side is the lungs, right? So that big gray blob is tumor, just like you saw in the chest wall. And we gave her, and this is a patient who progressed on all the immunotherapies I give her. Like she had already gotten nothing off her. She was literally told you have 6 months to live at best. You should enjoy your life long. And you can see what happened to the tumor, number one. Number two, I get to call, I do a telehealth with her, and she complains about the same thing every time. Her hair is turned gray and it's curly, and she had brown hair at least, so pretty impressive. But it's now turned gray and it's curly. If there's a way to get to the next slide, it would be great. But there she is. So there's Val Snap. And she had the nicest comments for the story. I can't remember them all, but I look out over the farm and it's so beautiful. I think how blessed I am to be able to be here and to see this. How many people have been told they wouldn't be here for long and have not had the chance I have had. She's 2 years out. 2 years out. And so we're just, if you go to the next slide, I'll just right at the end here. So that was briefly Jennifer Phillips, who's from Knoxville. And she had cervical cancer. We treated her with cells, same story. Go to the next slide. This just happened. The next one, get to it. This guy, Anthony Burton. They did a story on him. I can't remember how it came to happen. He is our first lung cancer patient. We treated him last summer and he had a complete response. All tumors went away. And he received the standard of therapy. So this isn't just for melanoma, it's for cervical, it's for lung. We're now testing. Next slide. And these are just, the X's are where patients have come from. I'm pretty proud of this. I came from Memorial Sloan Kettering, right? I had Nobel Prize winners sitting on either side of me when I went to conferences. And I moved to Louisville, Kentucky. Don Miller convinced me to move here. And what kept me here was I met a beautiful Louisville and whose parents live here, by the way. And so, but I'm very proud that when this work has led to having patients realize the workplace they can come to get cured of their cancer. Next slide. And in all honesty, I think it might be. Right? So, you know, we're now at the cusp of being able to say that our children, I have kids at home, our children, this is my last slide, our children may not have to worry about time. We are winning the war on cancer. We have 30% reduction. In 2025, I believe we'll have another 30% reduction. And I'm being conservative when I say when you see scans like this, you see results like this, there is that wagon. We're going to see that wagon. You're going to start to see more and more of your friends and family being told they have terminal cancer and living normal lifespan. That's what's happening right now at Brown Cancer Center. It's happening in our infusion areas. We were early adopters of all these technologies because we tested them. We were believers in them. We tested them. We helped get them FDA approved. Now we're using them. I have patient after patient after patient being told by general community oncologists, I'm sorry, there's nothing to be done. You should enjoy your quality of life. It's usually older folks. 75, 80-year-olds, the oncologists, young oncologists said it's not worth it. They come to me, I put them on a simple single agent regimen of therapy, non-toxic, and all of a sudden the tumors go away. And they all want to go back to the doctor and say, hey, we need to go back to the doctor. And I tell them, don't do that. Yeah, man. You know, we're working on telling them that, but you know, for that to be happening, I think is key. The last comment I have to say this not because of the age of the population I'm looking at. Immunotherapies work better the older you are. Because your immune system wanes, that's why your risk of getting cancer goes up. And it's immunotherapies that are key. So as you look at your friends and family who are above the age of 60, going into your 90s, that's one. And I thank you very much.
And also thank you for your humor. What a delight. We're really for what happened. But Rotarians, I'm very cognitive. It's past one. For those that need to depart, please do. But we want to carry on. We've got some questions. If you want to come to the mic and ask your questions, and I also want to ask Mike if you could stay, and Tony and John for a quick photograph after. We love it. Thank you.
Fantastic, amazing, so exciting for our future to be able to have these things in Louisville and across the planet. I have a question about melanoma because I didn't really know how much of a killer it was, and there's been a lot lately about sunscreens, maybe being actually some of the things in sunscreen being a contributor to that. So now it's like scary. Where's the sunscreen going on? Which brand do I use? What's the connection there?
It's incredibly confusing with the UVA and UVB, and there's a lot of theories going around about what's happening, but there's some good clinical trial data from Australia, which, you know, proximity to the equator means they get a lot of melanoma, that shows that the inverse correlation, I should say, sorry, direct correlation between using sunscreen and getting melanoma. So we're all putting sunscreen on saying, oh, we want to protect ourselves from melanoma, right? That's slather around my kids when they go to lakeside. Right? Well, there's this data out there, no one can explain it. Well, I believe, I'll tell you what I don't believe it's necessarily chemicals. I mean, using the metal-based sunscreen is the best by far to block all UV radiation. But I think it's because you can get these SPF 50 sunscreens, and all of a sudden you can spend all day out. You don't burn, right? You keep putting it on, you keep putting it on, it on. And so people are spending more time outdoors now. And That's translating into ultraviolet radiation. We expected the melanoma incidence to go down because of the recognition that ultraviolet radiation is causing it. You know, in the 70s, everybody slathered themselves with baby oil, right? You want that nice big rich tan and all this. But then we figured it out in the 80s, right? And in the 90s, the use of widespread use of high SPF sunscreens work. Well, there should be, there's always a lag when you reduce the risk exposure to disease happen. We should have seen the reduction happen in that opposite happening. It's going up there. It's like 3% a year. It's going up. And so what I recommend and what I do, if I go to the beach, is I get a nice, and you can get UV protective clothing, it's more expensive, but getting a nice cotton long sleeve shirt, wearing a hat, and some shorts that go below your knee preferably, and shoes that cover the top of your feet. You know, the top of your feet are going to get a lot of sun, right? So that's why we have helmets, right? You don't have to worry about it. But that's a big thing right now, that we believe that people are spending more time in the sun. As a result of that, the rates are going up. And SPFs, you put it on, it's still happening. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'm seeing a shift to much younger people coming with stage 4 melanoma. Lots of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that we used to see. So it has nothing to do with their immune system. It's just bad. Yes.
Dr. Chesney, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. My name is Tom Boner, and I want to thank you first of all because I have a close friend who is a beneficiary of the melanoma treatment you talked about. He went to MD Anderson and they referred him back here because they said he couldn't be any place better. So my question though is with regard to your relationship in the community. I myself am a cancer survivor, and I had one of the early types of immunotherapy that beat it totally, and I'm very grateful for that. As soon as my doctor told me my diagnosis, I expected that he was going to tell me, so we're going to send you to the Brown Cancer Center. He treated me, and I thought, then he will. And he never did. Thankfully, he knew what the heck he was doing. What I'm wondering, therefore, is what exactly is the not the real, but the relationship with the Brown Cancer Center and the medical community and the patient community?
So the healthcare is big business. It's over 20% of our gross national product. Healthcare systems are competitive. That just speaks of Northern about health. And that has, I believe, hindered high quality patient care. We get more referrals from outside of Louisville for these programs than we get inside of Louisville. The TILS program, we're getting referrals from all over the country. We received our first referral from the University of Kentucky this spring. So that patient is going into the hospital. He's pretty excited to get his TILS. That only came about because they brought in a new lung cancer doctor. Didn't know that, but we don't mix. And maybe this will be the last referral we get from him, because maybe he'll find out. I'm hoping this patient's cured. I will say that things are getting better. Norton has a very strong cancer program. The Norton program was built out of the Brown Cancer Center. Those all oncologists who started came from Brown Cancer Center. And several are still working. I'm working with them. Our bone marrow transplant program is accredited nationally. It has it's a center of excellence for Anthem. And anyone who's in the North system that needs bone marrow transplant until very recently was the University of Kentucky or Vanderbilt. And so we've talked to them, and that's now changed. So we're working more closely with Norton, and we had already worked with Baptist for that program. And TILS, the cell-based therapy, is a natural progression of that. The goal is to have them do what they do well, right? And have us do what we do well, all work together. And to do that, we really have to have senior leadership working together, doctors working together. And what I can say is, it's not a perfect system today, but we're all working towards the same goal, just make sure the patients, there's something that the patient can get here, that doesn't require them to go to Nashville or Houston, that they get it here. And to disregard all the past, a lot of the competition I'm talking about came from personalities that no longer are in charge.
Thanks for the clarity.
Okay.
Come forward and ask your questions of him. That way we won't adjourn as a body. I just realize that many people need to get back to work, but would everyone please thank Dr. Chesney for it? Rotarians, I hope to see you next Thursday for a very important changeover leadership meeting, and we are adjourned. Thank you.